Hello and welcome to Inside the Newsroom. I'm Maddie Paul. Inside the Newsroom, we bring you exclusive interviews with our newsroom staff about their passion and experiences as they've been putting together trending stories with the KELOLAND area. Let's get started with our trending stories. Up first, Israel's military conducted airstrikes on Iran, targeting its nuclear facilities. U.S. Senate Majority Leader John Thune called Iran's violation of its nuclear non-proliferation obligations, quote, unacceptable. And now, we have a better picture about the drugs that are inside our prison. South Dakota State Attorney General Marty Jackley says cocaine, methamphetamine, K2, and fentanyl are inside State Department of Corrections facilities. And Secretary of Corrections Kelly Wasco says drugs can enter through packages or even in the mail. Jackley says his office is investigating recent inmate deaths.
I do anticipate as Attorney General in the next few weeks announcing fairly significant criminal charges resulting from some of the drug trade and the deaths that we're experiencing.
There's going to be a delay as to when lawmakers will meet for a special legislative session regarding a new men's prison. The task force hopes to complete a proposal to recommend construction in July.
We're knee-deep in all the details, but the other legislators are not. And so the concept of asking them to approve something that we know inside and out, and they've only maybe had a couple weeks to digest.
And this Saturday, you may want to avoid a stretch of Minnesota Avenue. Protesters are anticipating up to 1,000 people to line the road between 6th and 8th Streets. Police say they don't expect any problems or even issues. The protest will start at 11 in the morning and last until 2 in the afternoon. Also this weekend, the annual Pride Parade will be taking place on Saturday, and it starts at 8th and Dakota and goes to 8th and Reed. The Pride Festival will also take place, and that is at Yankton Trail Park. Commuters should not be affected, according to Sioux Falls Police. Also, yesterday, people in northwest Iowa were continuing to clean up storm damage that happened over Wednesday after high winds had struck the area. Jordan DeSmet takes us over to Iowa in Sibley to see how the storm damage is looking.
From split trees to scattered tin, you could see evidence of a strong storm throughout Sibley. Osceola County Emergency Manager Corey Shear sprung into action once he saw the severe thunderstorm warning Wednesday afternoon.
I got about 2 miles out of town when I saw the dust cloud coming across. A couple miles wide is what I could see. So when I was in the thick of it, the wind speed reader that I use in the truck I had on the roof, I calculated up to 67 miles an hour, where then I called into dispatch and activate the Sibley sirens.
That siren caught the attention of Brandon Rushi of Spine and Sport Chiropractic.
I was in the room adjusting a patient, and all of a sudden we heard the tornado sirens go off, and then we heard a big thud, which I'm assuming is that tree over there that snapped off and caught the front end of my van. So then I looked at the patient, I said, I think we probably should go down to the basement now.
The high winds bent street signs, damaged some signage at the Casey's, the roof of the shed, and the north side of the Family Dollar, which was already covered with tarps. At the city park, parts of trees came tumbling down, leaving city crews with a tall task in the coming days. The near 70-mile-per-hour gusts also knocked down power lines and shut down a section of County Road 22 east of town. You can see some power lines missing here as crews work to repair them.
15 poles were tipped over, and they're actually working on that. Hopefully be back on mid-Friday.
Back in town, people have been working hard to get back on track.
Yesterday there was a lot of payloaders from the city moving stuff off, and electric trucks and fire trucks and ambulances were all about checking on everybody. So it was good to see everyone out helping each other out.
That was Jordan DeSmet reporting. And today in KELOLAND, it's supposed to be pretty cloudy, pretty sunny, but we've been seeing some active weather going through the KELOLAND area, and our meteorologists are expecting more to come this weekend. While strong to severe storms are possible, there is a reason some hazards are not as likely as others. So our KELOLAND meteorologist Jalen Borenson explains.
More thunderstorm chances were in the forecast across KELOLAND today, along with the risk for severe weather. While the main hazards have been damaging winds and hail, the tornado risk has been on the lower end. A factor in the atmosphere that can cause this is wind shear. It can play a role in storm organization and movement. There are two types of shear, speed shear and directional shear. Speed shear is the change in wind speeds with height. With severe thunderstorms, this type of shear can help tilt the storm's updraft. On the other hand, directional shear is the change in wind direction with height. This can induce rotation, which can eventually lead to tornado development. But shear does not always have to do with tornadoes. It can contribute to strong downburst winds like we saw yesterday near Little Rock, Iowa. While the shear does not directly cause this, it can help strengthen the storm structure and allow the downdraft to fully develop. Then once the cool air in the thunderstorm becomes denser than the surrounding air, the cooler air accelerates downwards. As it hits the ground and spreads outwards, intense winds can occur. It will be worth keeping an eye on this ingredient as more severe activity is possible in the coming weeks. For KELOLAND Weather, I'm meteorologist Jalen Borison.
Still to come inside the newsroom, we are bringing a reporter to join me at the digital desk to talk about a story where a man is creating a wooden hearts, many in fact, for hospice patients. Stay with us. Welcome back to Inside the Newsroom. Now, on Thursday night, we gave you a special piece on Eye on KELOLAND. And this story was about a Worthington man who used his skills to create wooden hearts for hospice patients. Joining me now is the reporter for that story, Tom Hansen, and he wants to explain a little bit about how he created the story. Tom, thanks for joining me at the digital desk.
Oh, thanks for having me. I guess it's appropriate since I just had you on Inside KELOLAND.
I know, and if you want to watch that Inside KELOLAND, that will be airing this weekend, right, Tom?
Yep, absolutely.
Right there. Well, Tom, I want to talk about your Eye on KELOLAND story because it was really special. You know, we described it as a world that's super fast-paced. This moment was how this man from Worthington took a moment to just breathe. Can you explain your story?
You know, he's just a guy who has a big heart, I think. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Joe Kruckelberg worked for the Houston Oilers in the NFL and decided to come home to his small town, Worthington, Minnesota, in 1985, which itself is kind of interesting. Why do you give up a career in the NFL to come home? But I think family called him home. His hometown called him home. And he's been a physical trainer for the high school and the college there for years. So he's very well known in Worthington. And then I think it really goes back to his mother. His mother taught him that, and she was a volunteer in the hospice. And his mother taught him that giving back to others was the thing to do. And so that's what he does now. He carves little wooden hearts and he gives them to people as gifts. And it's every time he makes a heart, there's a prayer inside of it because when he's making it, he says a prayer.
Wow. And Tom, you're talking about his legacy that he's had before he came back to Worthington. Why focus on this little piece that he's doing, making these wooden hearts? Why focus on this for the story and not the legacy that he had before he came back to Worthington?
I think it's because of what it is now. He's giving these hearts to people in the Sunset Cottage Hospice in Worthington. And when they receive this little heart, it's a reminder that someone cares about them. He is just, you know what I love about what we do is we get to meet really cool people and we get to tell their stories. And this is one of the hearts. One of the things he talked about was, the wood isn't always perfect, and that is kind of a metaphor for our lives. Our lives are never perfect, and sometimes it's the ones with the most blemishes that are often the most beautiful. Wow. I thought that was so cool.
Wow. So that's a piece of the story that stuck with you.
Yeah.
What did you want viewers to get stuck to or remember as they were watching or now as they read your story online?
For Joel, the important part was he wants people to understand what hospice is all about because he's a hospice volunteer. And so he really wanted people to understand how important being a hospice volunteer is. He's the only male hospice volunteer at that cottage.
Wow.
And he says he works with a great group, but he'd like to see maybe some other guys join in. And sometimes it's just holding hands. Sometimes it's just giving a conversation or having a conversation with someone who's nearing the end of their life. That's a hard thing to do, right? So you really have to be comfortable in yourself to be able to do that, I think.
You know, this kind of story, it's tackling a lot of messages and themes. And this is something that Eye on Keloland stories can really explore. Can you explain the difference between an Eye on Keloland story versus just a regular story that we see on our newscasts?
Absolutely. So with a regular story, we're usually in that minute to minute 45 time range. With an Eye on Keloland, we kind of have a license to go longer and go more in depth. And as a reporter, that's so nice to be able to do, because sometimes there's so many little things that you want to put in a story that you find interesting, that you think people will be interested in, that you just don't have time for. And so you've got to keep your focus. With an Eye on Keloland, you kind of get to go off on those little tributaries off the river, you know. It's like we got to meet Jeannie Getch. Jeannie Getch is 98 years old, and she's nearing the end of her life, and she's staying at the Sunset Cottage. She just has a wonderful attitude, And her goal is to make it to age 99 on her birthday on July 4th. And she was just very matter-of-fact about what a great thing hospice care is. Because, I mean, I'll just say it, we are all going to die someday. We are all going to be there. We're all going to be in that same spot. And she's doing it with such grace, and Joel is helping her.
Wow. It's a privilege to grow old. That's my opinion. And it seems like that is shared with her too, especially as she nears her birthday. I'm celebrating for her even now. How special. And again, as you were saying, this is the type of stories and the little implications that we can get through Eye on Keloland, these longer form stories. And it sounds like you prefer these long form type of stories for yourself, Tom.
I wouldn't say I prefer it, but there are certain stories that call for it. And a lot of times I'll be out on a story and I'll just go, oh man, there's more here than just this one focus. I keep hitting the mic and I apologize.
It doesn't sound like it.
Sorry, good.
But you're right. Like when you go out on a stories, there could be multiple angles just in one interview. And so for you, how do you find that mean to stay within an angle? Or do you say, you know what, I do want to create multiple stories out of this? What goes through your head when you find something like
That's
this?
a really good question, because it happens all the time. And a lot of times I'll be out and I'll be working on one story, and you'll be talking with a person, then you'll realize, oh, there's a whole nother story here. And sometimes you'll just say, okay, I'm going to call you in 6 months and we're going to do this story. Or you try and combine it in. And if you try and combine it in, sometimes those are where the Eye on Kelolands come in, because you go off on this tangent, you go off on this tangent, and then you try and bring them together. Storytelling is fun because it's such a creative process, but there are all sorts of little tricks that you learn over the years that help.
Oh, what's a trick?
For instance, if you find that you've got two stories, two different points of interest in a story, you got to start with one, introduce the next one, but always end with both of them. Yeah.
End with both of them. Okay, what's an example of that? Did you implement that for this story with the wooden hearts?
You know, in a way, yeah, because we started with Joel carving his little hearts.
Yep.
And then we went and talked with Jeannie about how important hospice is to her. So that's kind of a different story. It's not carving hearts. It's the hospice and how important that is to her. And then we brought it back at the end of the story with Joel making those hearts. And a quote from Mother Teresa. Oh, where is that?
The quote.
Do small things with great love.
Wow.
Do small things with great love. A quote from Mother Teresa. He has that sign up in his little workshop. And I thought, there's my ending right there. Because that is exactly, that boils down the story right there, right?
And you didn't know that you were going to stumble upon a
No.
quote like that. And that
No.
just goes to show, like, when you go and you see what's there for your interview or as you're setting up your shots or anything like that, the story just reveals itself for you, right, Tom?
It really does. And you have to pay attention, but those things will present themselves. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share about the creation of this story or how you hope it will impact viewers?
Yeah, I think, in the end, Joel he's sofa in Ireland right now, so he hasn't seen it yet. So I hope when he gets back, he likes the story. But his main goal was really getting help for the hospice in Worthington. Worthington's a small town, but that's a great place. It's a great resource for a small town to have a hospice cottage. It's a beautiful building. It's a beautiful, peaceful place. And they have a big fundraiser every year. And Joel was telling me that we need to come and be at that fundraiser. So that may be another story down the road.
Tom, thank you so much for joining me at the digital desk. And you can see Tom's story on Eye on KELOLAND Rewind, which is only on KELOLAND Plus, and that will be airing on Monday at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. So make sure you stick around to watch that on Kelo Plus. And still to come on Inside the Newsroom, we're bringing in another Newsroom staff member to talk about a story that they created about Father's Day. Stay with us. Welcome back to Inside the Newsroom. Now, Mother's Day can be a pretty busy holiday for flower shops, but one floral shop wants to say, let's make Father's Day a very busy day too. Joining me now is our intern and KELOLAND reporter, Nathan, who did a story exclusively about this. Nathan, welcome to the digital desk.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. Yesterday when we did this assignment meeting, which we usually have in the mornings, you were the one that pitched, why don't we do a story about flowers for Father's Day? What made you come up with this story idea?
Well, I think I always heard the statistic that most men don't receive flowers until their funeral, and it kind of just stuck with me, especially for Father's Day. It's like with Mother's Day, you usually think I'm going to get my mom flowers, but with Father's Day, you don't think that at all. Mm-hmm. So then last year when I thought about it, I decided to get my dad some, and I told him about it, and I told him why, and he seemed to really appreciate it. So I thought kind of getting that message out to other people would be just a good thing. So I pitched it, and it seemed like a lot of people liked it.
Everyone loved the idea. And what flower shop did you go to highlight this type of effort?
Yes, I went to two. I went to first the Cliff Avenue Greenhouse, and then the Flower Mill.
And do they see a lot of people come in for Father's Day usually?
The Cliff Avenue said that they had a lot of people come in for garden stuff and trees and shrubs and bushes, all that sort of lawn care. And then the Flower Mill said that they didn't really have any orders, but it was something that she definitely wanted to change. She even made little bouquets as examples for me, and they were just the cutest little things ever. I think any dad would appreciate.
Wow. So it's not like you just have to go and buy a bouquet is what these people were saying, these florists. It's like you could buy anything really at a flower shop, right?
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Okay. And what else did you learn through your story about giving flowers for Father's Day?
I guess just that, you can really customize it however you want. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be just a regular bouquet of flowers. You can tell them hey, my dad's into fishing, he's into sports, and they can really make it catered to him and his hobbies or activities or whatever.
Well, now I feel like you have to get your father flowers again after doing a story like this. It better be on your mind, Nathan.
It definitely is, trust me.
And you've been an intern for KELOLAND. How long have you been here?
This is my 4th week. So on Monday, it's going to be the start of my 5th week.
Does that feel crazy?
Yeah, because it's only a 10-week internship, so that's the halfway mark right there. And it feels like it's been longer, but also not at all.
Yeah. And, just me being a bystander and watching you grow with Keloland, the first week it seemed like, okay, quick training, you get to learn everything that we do here. But very quickly, you have been able to publish and create your own stories. I mean, I feel like this week was a really great example. You did a story about the Empire Mall adding more stores. And I felt like that was such a challenging story to create because you were doing a lot of man on the street, random interviews, and then setting up your own. What is something that you've learned from just coming to a daily routine here at Keloland that's been very striking for you?
Obviously I'm in college, and the way we kind of go about there is it's like a weekly basis. You kind of have a whole week to get your story, your sources, editing, and all that. So coming here and it being a daily turnaround was a huge, not shock, but like adjustment.
Yeah, that's not easy.
It's not easy, but it's just so rewarding, honestly, because instead of like having just one project a week, you get one each day. So it's like you have even more little treasures, basically. Like, oh, I made that, and it feels really cool.
Are you from the Sioux Falls area?
No, I'm from Pierre, actually.
So what have you been learning about the Sioux Falls community through your short time here so far?
The biggest thing I've been learning is, honestly, road signs.
Road signs, the zipper merging.
I'm not going to try
the road
that.
work ahead. That's everything that you're learning right now. That's fair. It's a very busy construction season. But why don't we stick inside the newsroom now?
Yes.
And with your projects that you're creating, what is something that you've really wanted to build for your own skill set?
Oh, I think just being able to really just go for it and not kind of being afraid, And I think having, people who, your story signer, kind of pushing you in a good way has really been a skill that has helped me kind of break out of my shell.
Definitely been breaking out. You give great story pitches. You've been growing each and every week. I can't believe you only have a few more weeks for this 10-week program, but you're going to kill it. So everyone, make sure you watch out for Nathan's stories. You can find them on our newscast. And what story are you working on today?
Well, today I'm actually leaving at 12 to go to Pierre. So I didn't have one today, and I actually came in for the morning show to kind of shadow and kind of see the difference, which it's kind of crazy how much the energy is different in the morning or early morning versus regular daytime.
What you see, in the evenings, how those producers, anchors put everything together. That's what our next Inside the Newsroom segment will be, Nathan.
Exciting.
Well, Nathan, thank you for joining me at the desk, and stick around for Inside the Newsroom. We'll have more when we come back.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all the time we have today inside the newsroom. Thanks for watching. But real quick, a special announcement. Inside the Newsroom officially launches next Monday at 1:00 p.m. Central Time. You can see Inside the Newsroom from Monday through Friday, so pretty weekly at that 1:00 hour. And you can only watch it on Kelo Plus, and as you're watching right now. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.